My trip to Los Angeles in 2003 with pictures. Hi, how are you? So in 2003, I went to Los Angeles. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I was going to the Academy of Art University for photography. And I believe in March of 2003, that was when I was on spring break. And so I had a week off and I had time to drive down to Los Angeles. I'd been to Los Angeles a couple of times, once when I was like 6 or 7, and then another time back in 1995 when I went down to Disneyland with my girlfriend at the time. And then the only other time I've been to Los Angeles is, I went to down there for a Taxi A&R songwriter conference, but that was later. So in 2003, I'd only been to Los Angeles 2 times, and I wanted to go down there and actually see a bunch of stuff in Los Angeles that I'd never seen before. And so I got in the car, and March 13th through the 16th, 2003, I drove down. It was about a 6-hour drive. It's 383 miles from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and I went down I-5. And it's just flat pretty much the whole way. And then you get into Los Angeles and you go through all the different cities around Los Angeles, and then you end up in Los Angeles. And anyway, I stayed at the Ramada Plaza by Wyndham West in West Hollywood. And it's on Santa Monica Boulevard and Westmount Drive. The Ramada Plaza there, it's really great motel, and I would stay there if it's still there. I haven't looked, but I would stay there again in a minute. They had great parking for the car in enclosed place, and it was just a few blocks from West Hollywood. I mean, I could stay at the Ramada, and then I could walk just a couple of blocks up to West Hollywood, which was, gosh, it really is my favorite place in Los Angeles. And I've only been to Los Angeles a couple of times. I really haven't been to Los Angeles. I went to a Taxi conference, like I said, but I've never toured around Los Angeles since 2003. And so I would love to go back there. It was fantastic because it was just, it's where everything was at, man. Here's what I saw. Again, I went there and take a bunch of pictures and to see a whole bunch of stuff that I hadn't seen. And so I would stay at the motel, and then I would walk up and have pancakes at this little cafe. I don't remember the name of it, on Sunset Boulevard. So Sunset Boulevard was the main thing that I would hang out at. And I went to the Viper Room. And so Viper Room was co-owned by Johnny Depp. It opened in August 1993. A whole bunch of famous bands have played there and all kinds of stuff, and I think it's still there. And then the Whiskey A Go-Go has been there since 1964, and that's where, the Doors played, and Janis Joplin and Led Zeppelin played at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And then the Roxy Theatre is there, which opened in 1973. Springsteen and Bob Marley and Neil Young and Prince and David Bowie played there. And the House of Blues, which opened in 1994. And all these really famous clubs are just right close to each other in West Hollywood, right there. It's a really cool spot. And they got a magazine stand that was really cool. And back in 2003, there was also Tower Records was still there. And it was really great Tower Records. Now, there was a Tower Records in San Francisco that was really big. And I remember going there and hanging out, but it was really cool to see, the official, Los Angeles Tower Records. And I think now it's a clothing store. So, because I went on Google Street View and saw what it was now, and I think it's a clothing store. And man, it's just sad to see Tower Records go. And I think Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son, made a documentary called, it's about Tower Records, and it's a fantastic documentary about the history of Tower Records and what happened to it. And if you get a chance to check it out, it's really great. And so I took all these pictures just walking down Sunset Boulevard because there was so much to see, and I was like wide-eyed. I was like, wow, all these cool places that I've only seen in movies and heard about, and there they are. And it was just like, you expect it to be this amazing thing, and it's just, it's a place. You get there and you look at it and it's like, yeah, there it is. But, I put in context the history that was there, like the Comedy Store. I mean, the Comedy Store for comedians is, that's the place, man. The Comedy Store in Los Angeles was the store. And, every comedian you can possibly think of has played there and performed there. And I did not go in any of these places. This is just a tour. I wanted to see these places and take pictures, and I didn't have much time to be there. And so I just hurried through because I had a map and I had all these little places along the map pointed out. And so I was on a time schedule and I planned everything out, and I just went to all these different places. House of Blues, did I mention that? Opened in 1994. The Standard Hotel opened in 1999. This is Ocean's 12, the Ocean's 11 series. Ocean's 12 scene was filmed there. It's with Brad Pitt and Topher Grace. I think that's the hotel they used, and so that's what I know that for. There's the Skybar, which is at the Mandarin Hotel. That's a really famous bar, because you hear about all these places that the celebrities go and they drink and they hobnob and they schmooze and they talk with each other and they make all these deals. Oh, I was at Spago, and I went and I saw Spago. There it is. And all these, Les Dômes, which opened in 1977. All these fancy places that it's like they made movie deals in there, over lunch. And a great example is you watch the movie Bowfinger with Steve Martin and Robert Downey Jr. when Steve Martin is like trying to pretend that he's having a conversation, and to have Robert Downey Jr. overhear it and maybe try to get his screenplay made into a thing. And I'm sure people have just hung out at these Hollywood restaurants trying to get a deal or meet somebody, or just I'd love to make a movie or write a script just about how, or even a documentary about how all that works. You go to these places, these restaurants, and they just meet people and hey, how are you? And the networking of how all this stuff gets made. What's a great movie to watch is The Player. Robert Altman's The Player, which opens with like a 9-minute one-er shot, just going from scene to scene. And but it's all about the behind-the-scenes deals. So I'd love to write a story about that. That just fascinates me, about all the behind-the-scenes stuff. How stuff gets made is amazing to me. The Laugh Factory was another comedy store or comedy club, opened in 1979. The Hollywood Improv, which opened in 1974. And then I walked down Sunset Boulevard, because there's so much, and there was weird stuff on Sunset Boulevard that I didn't even know what it is. I still don't know what it is. I don't even know what to Google to find out what it is. Just a whole bunch of stuff. And then the Sunset Grill, I saw that. I think that's along Sunset Boulevard. Of course, Sunset Grill. Opened in 1957, and yes, that was the place that Don Henley wrote the song Sunset Grill in 1984. And I guess it was about that place. Coconut Teaser, rock bands play there, I guess. It opened in 87. Amoeba Records, there's one in San Francisco. Huge record store. I mean, if you ever go to San Francisco, I think it's still there, the Amoeba Records at the end of Haight Street. I would go there all the time. Records and records. I would sell my CD collections in order to pay for rent. I would take all my CDs, and they'd give me like, $100 for my CDs, and I'd be able to pay my rent that month. But there was the Amoeba Records in Los Angeles, and it's just really cool to see the official Hollywood, Los Angeles headquarter buildings of these places, such as Guitar Center. So if you walk down Sunset Boulevard, eventually you get to Guitar Center, and it was a huge Guitar Center. We've got one in here in Portland, there was one in San Francisco, but this one was just huge. And outside, I think, if I remember correctly, there was a whole bunch of, it was called the Rock Walk or something like that, and they've got all the handprints of just all these famous musicians all over the place. And it's just, it just felt like a very holy place to walk in it, because the famous musicians have walked in there and played the guitar, and that they've been here, man. They've been here. They've bought their instruments here. They've played here. It's just the history. That's the thing about Los Angeles, is there's so much history. I mean, you get these places also on Sunset Boulevard, like the Chateau Marmont that's been there since 1929. And celebrities have hung out there, like F. Scott Fitzgerald hung out there, you know? The guy who wrote The Great Gatsby, one of my favorite novels ever. And other people, Hunter S. Thompson, everybody has hung out. And there's so much that has happened at the Chateau Marmont, and people that have stayed there and hung out there and partied there. And the history. I love old Hollywood history. I would love to just take some time and explore and think about and research old Hollywood, you know, the history of Hollywood. I really enjoyed the movie Chaplin with Robert Downey Jr. and Kevin Kline as Douglas Fairbanks and a whole bunch of people. And it's a good movie. And but it explores the history of Hollywood, and you know, in Charlie Chaplin's time, and then you have The Aviator by Martin Scorsese about Howard Hughes, and you get to see more behind the scenes of old Hollywood, and it fascinates me. I mean, if you've ever seen movies with Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire and Humphrey Bogart with Casablanca, and you know, just this old, it seems so classy, but I would love to know the behind the scenes, like if you've seen the movie Singing in the Rain. You know, they love to make movies about Hollywood, in Hollywood, and Singing in the Rain is an example. And then you have La La Land, that's the most recent one that I can think of, which kind of takes you behind the scenes of how things work in Los Angeles and Hollywood. And it's just like, you know, I trained to be an actor, but I'm kind of glad I didn't go down there and get into that, because I don't know. I don't know how I would have done. I don't know how I would have turned out. I know so much more now that I wouldn't be affected by stuff now. But then, right out of college, I would have been wide-eyed and just open for anything. And I don't know if I would have gotten on a sitcom or how I would have done. It's a very interesting thing. My life kind of took a turn, and I ended up in San Francisco, and I'm very happy it did, because San Francisco is fantastic. And then I moved back up to Portland, and I never continued being an actor, mostly because I didn't want to be characters. I got tired of playing characters. I did, you know, in college and in stage in Portland, and I just wanted to be myself. And so I always think of The Road Not Taken. And anyway, old Hollywood interests me. One of the other reasons I went down to Los Angeles, I was a big fan of the movie Swingers. Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau, who directed, you know, some of the Marvel movies. And, you know, before they were big and famous, they did this movie called Swingers, which you probably know. And John Livingston's in it. And I wanted to go down and see the places they filmed, like the Dresden and the Derby. Dresden opened in 1954, Derby opened in 1992. They had some scenes in the 101 coffee shop that's been there since 2001. And then I went by where they filmed Mikey's apartment building. And then Musso and Frank's, I think they did a scene in the parking lot there. And Musso and Frank's, they also filmed in there, I think, for Ocean's 11, when Brad Pitt and George Clooney are planning the heist. And they say, okay, what's the target? Well, I'm going to knock over 3 casinos. And that's the scene, I think they filmed that at Musso and Frank's. At least they drove through down a street in Los Angeles and then turned to the Musso and Frank's parking lot. And right before, in Ocean's 11, right before they get in the car and drive to Musso and Frank's, you see them walking out of this nightclub, which is at 1707 at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. And I just had to see these places in real life. That was, Brad Pitt and George Clooney and Topher Grace, they stood right there when they filmed that. And it was just really cool to know that that's where it happened. And it's, you know, it's fascinating for about a minute. It's like, oh, that's cool. This is where it happened. Oh, wow. And then it's like, yep, it's a place. All right, move on to the next thing. But in Los Angeles, when you move on to the next things, there's stuff along the way. I mean, you got the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So I go walking on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and there's all these stars. And whose star did I see? I saw Sting's star, Tom Hanks, The Simpsons star, Pierce Brosnan's, Lee Strasberg, the great acting teacher who was also in Godfather 2, Dean Martin's star. And I'm not sure these are Harrison Ford's footprints. I'm not sure if these are legit, but they look like, you know, this is a picture of what I saw that says Harrison Ford. So I don't know if those are actually his footprints. I don't know. But that's what it was. And that was right in front of the Kodak Theatre. The Kodak Theatre, which opened in... Kodak Theatre opened in November 9th, 2001. And then I was there a couple of years later, year and a half later, in March of 2003, go to the Kodak Theatre. So it was like brand new. It was this cool thing because whenever I watched the Academy Awards, the Oscars, it was always at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion or some other place. But they actually built this huge facility, this huge theater for the Oscars to be at. And I think it's still there. I think they still show the Oscars there. But I got a chance to walk through it when it was, you know, just a year and a half old. And that was really cool because there's so much to it. And you can walk through and they got all these things with saying Best Picture. And so it was, when I was there, it was a week before the 75th anniversary presentation of the Academy Awards. So it was the 75th Academy Awards, the week after I was there. So they had all the bleachers set up, they had the red carpet was already out, and I was thinking, you know, a week from now, this whole area is going to be filled with every celebrity you could possibly think of. And I was like, can I stay another week? Not that I'd be able to even get in the bleachers, but it was just really cool to see that in person. And then right down the street, you know, if you follow the Walk of Fame stars, you end up at the famous Mann's Chinese Theater, which is really cool to see. That's been there since May 18th, 1927. There's such history in these places in Los Angeles. And then there's the Groundlings, which was there in 1974. Pink's Hot Dog Stand, founded in 1939. Crossroads of the World is a shopping mall. And I also saw I drove past the Formosa Cafe, which was way away from everything else, but it was on my map and I had to see it because I don't know if Swingers filmed something at there, but I know the movie LA Confidential did. That's where Guy Pearce walks up and mistakes Lana Turner for a prostitute. And it's a really great scene in LA Confidential. And I was like, oh, there's the Formosa Cafe. That's where they filmed that. Anyway, so much has been filmed there and other places. I saw the Capitol Records building, Los Angeles Film School. And then I drove... Okay, I went to Nate and Al's Delicatessen, which is a block away from the famous Rodeo Drive. You know, in Pretty Woman, when Julia Roberts goes walking and shopping and then gets denied, and then she goes back with Richard Gere, and then she buys all this stuff and she goes shopping, and it's a wonderful sequence. So I ate at the Delicatessen at Nate and Al's, and then I walked over to Rodeo Drive and walked up and down it, and it was very cool. And then I got in my car, and as I was driving down Rodeo Drive, or one of the roads near it, I was coming out at I stopped at a stoplight, and then mine turned green, and this car was coming at me, trying to take a left in front of me. It was a white convertible, and I swear it was Simon from America's Got Talent. I swear. Or it was someone who looked just like him, and he had the sunglasses on, I think. But it was like, I almost got in a car accident. It was Simon, Simon Cowell. It may not have been him, but I swear it was him. Anyway. That was the only maybe celebrity sighting that I had. And so that was cool. So yeah, I saw Rodeo Drive, and then I went and I drove past Paramount Pictures. I had to see where that was. And I didn't go to Warner Brothers. I don't think I had time, but I did see the outside of Paramount Pictures. And at the time, that's where in 2003, they were filming the sitcom Frasier. And what else were they filming at the time? Charmed and Becker were also being filmed at Paramount in 2003 at that time. And it was just really cool to see. It was like, that's Paramount Pictures, man. That's, you know, Paramount Pictures made Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, when the mountain fades at the beginning. it was just it was just magical to see all these places in real life. And I can't believe I haven't been back. I haven't been to Los Angeles. Well, I went there, like I said, for the Taxi conference, but I didn't tour around. I haven't been to West Hollywood since 2003. I really should go back and take a look. And I would stay at that Ramada Inn again, because that was really cool to see. Then I drove to the ocean and back and took some pictures while I was driving along the way. And yes, I did also go to one other place. There were all these places where they sell screenplays. There's little shops where they sell scripts of movies. And I stopped in one and I bought the screenplays too. I was really into heist movies at the time. So I bought Ocean's 11 screenplay. And this is the original screenplay. So if you read it, see, revised in October 24, 2000. So this is the original script. So if you read this, this is different than what they filmed in the movie. So you get to read all the scenes that didn't get put in the movie. They may have filmed them but didn't include them, or they decided not to film them. But it's great looking through these scripts because you see how it really was originally supposed to be. Catch Me If You Can was another script I bought. The Thomas Crown Affair, which is actually my favorite movie. My favorite movie is Casablanca, but this is the one I've actually watched the most, is Thomas Crown Affair. The one with Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo. And then I also bought Wall Street, which is one of my favorite movies at the time. I just had to have the screenplays, and it's fun to look through those and see how the movie was originally supposed to be. And so, and you could buy any script you want. And I bet you still can, but you could probably do it online, or the scripts are online. And the thing about my trip is, I remember it like it was yesterday. I really do. I mean, I can remember where it was, what it looked like, what I felt, what the weather was like, sunny. And I remember just walking here and there, and it was great seeing all these amazing places, and it looked just like it looks in the movies. You know, when you watch Die Hard or Pretty Woman filmed in Los Angeles, yep, that's exactly what it looks like. It's Los Angeles. And the thing about it is, like, once I saw the outside of, Whiskey A Go-Go, now I've never seen a performance there. I'd probably think very differently once I went in there. You see these places and suddenly you're stunned. It's like, wow, I'm finally seeing it. This is really cool. I saw that in a movie, that there it is. And then after a minute, it's like the shock fades and it's like on to the next thing. There was some places in Los Angeles that, see the Hollywood sign, that'll never get old. That'll always have mystique and be cool. And then, there's some, if I had gone into some of these places, it would probably have been, it would still hold allureness to me. West Hollywood in general, and Sunset Boulevard in general, the Mann's Chinese Theater, there's mystique to this. It's amazing, the history. But a lot of times you see places and once you've seen it, it's like no big deal, it wears off. But the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco still fascinates me. It still has mystique. It's like, oh my gosh, how did they do that? That's just amazing, because it also symbolizes the entire city and also a lot of history for me. But it's amazing to see really cool places, and I'm glad I got to take the trip to Los Angeles. Then I got back on the freeway and drove back to San Francisco, that long 6-hour drive back up to San Francisco through all that flat, farmland. But it was a great trip. And I would love to know the trips you have taken. What's your experience in Los Angeles? What do you think of Los Angeles? What cool places should I go to next in Los Angeles? What do you think of travel in general? And anyway, any thoughts about anything I've said in this? And I would love to know your thoughts. Anyway, thanks for listening to me. That was my trip to Los Angeles in 2003 that I wanted to share with you and show you these really fun pictures. And so anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day and a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you next week. All right. See ya.